Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to comedian Veer Das about Just For Laughs Montreal, running July 13th through July 31st. His show is going to be on July 28th, part of the Veer Das Wanted World Tour at Olympia. Thank you for your time. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. It's pretty crazy because, stand-up comedy has always been, such a passionate thing worldwide. So many amazing comics from all around the world. Then there's Just For Laughs Montreal, 40 years of this festival with such an amazing, incredible, diverse lineup of comedians from all around the world and everything. What's that like kind of being part of such a kind of a festival that has a little bit of prestige where it's showcased a lot of amazing comics over the years?
I think you're coming in as much as an audience member as you are as a comic, right?
Yeah.
And especially for someone like me, where I live in India, so there's a slightly smaller scene here in terms of English stand-up, but a much larger scene in terms of Hindi stand-up, right?
Yeah.
So it's nice to come into to an area where there's just a bunch of English comics from everywhere in the world. So it's kind of nice. You feel like you're playing with the big boys, so to speak.
Are you also aware? I mean, it's going to be in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, but it is a very international festival in terms of the notoriety of it and everything. Like, Just For Laughs is a big brand and everything. Are you starting to kind of get aware of that a little bit year after year about the Just For Laughs brand specifically?
I mean, I know they keep giving me bigger rooms and more time, which is I'm happy with, right? So they, I started out coming in and performing for like 100 people, and they gave me like 5 minutes, and now it's, I get to do thousands of people, and they give me like my own shows, which is nice, So in that sense, even if I wasn't aware, they're making me acutely aware of the fact that
and you're playing at a really good good venue. You're playing at Olympia, so that's gonna be great. The 28th of July, you're gonna be part of your Veer Das Wanted tour, so they can get tickets at hahaha.com for that. Specifically about you, I mean, stand-up comedy is in a crazy kind of state right now in regards to the access, and people can see a lot of specials all over the place and everything. What do you think about the specific landscape of stand-up comedy in terms of I'm not talking about the material here. I'm talking more about just the access of it, people aware of it, exposure-wise. What can you tell me about that?
I think it's never been more of a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Earlier, it used to be kind of I'm going to do my jokes and I'm going to move on to the next city,
Yeah.
right? And now there's, I'm going to do my jokes, and your voice is as loud as I am, and your memes are as funny as I am,
Yeah.
and you're, and with stand-up, much like I think acting, there's always a sense within every audience member, like, I could have done that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I could be that guy. And now you kind of have to honor that sense and quieten down that sense. Sometimes you'll be like, no, you couldn't be that person. This takes work and commitment.
Are you aware of the landscape to the fact, though, that you do many shows, you do many specials and everything, and clips of your shows resurface all the time? One clip over another might kind of go on TikTok more on someone's For You page than others. Are you aware of maybe the unpredictability of it sometimes? Because maybe there's like a bit you did that, had a lot of talk that you weren't sure was going to be as popular or something. Have you thought about that? That's what I find interesting.
I think it's most comedians, if they're good, they're focusing on the room, and then they're not focusing on the chat room or the online part of it, right? So it changes from room to room. Like, stuff that is winners in one room, the next night you're in a different city and it's not a winner anymore. And then random things that you thought people would never kind of take to end up becoming callbacks for your, my first Netflix special, I had a line which was, once you go brown, the other colors let you down, right? And it was just sort of a throwaway line, which I never intended to catch on or anything like that. It was an aside in quite a poignant set. And then it became like Tinder profiles and T-shirts and all of that stuff. And you just can't predict stuff like that, what people are going to like.
You're focusing on stand-up comedy and everything, but you're seeing a lot of stand-up comedians take that kind of growth and transition and, work on movies. You did The Bubble on Netflix and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that just kind of happens, or do you think it's a necessity where stand-up comics are getting into other kind of facets of the industry a little bit, Veer?
No, I think it's kind of icing on the cake.
Yeah.
It used to be where if you were a comic, you needed to do other things so that people would come and see you do stand up. And thank God we now live in a world where you can just do a podcast and just keep doing stand up, and people will come and see you do stand up. So I think any comic that is acting or directing or doing any of that stuff is doing it because they want to, not because they have to anymore.
Yeah. Absolutely. Does it blow your mind about the amount of podcasts that are out there? Like, it's pretty nuts. Like, this started as a
I
podcast.
don't
Now it's a full media outlet, but it's insane. There's a lot of podcasts out there.
I don't have one, and I get told to launch one every single year. So yeah, isn't it like 4 million or 5 million podcasts in the world right
Well,
now?
I
So
think it's a combination too. And like I said, I don't usually get opinionated about things like this. I usually let my guests, but I'll tell you
Yeah.
this. I think 3 or 4 guys that just get together and talk sports and their picks on sports, the
Yeah.
opinion podcast, there's a lot of those. So it's like,
Okay.
whose opinion are you listening to? You know what I mean? That I think is something I think of all the time, right?
Yeah, I do like the sort of authenticity revolution that it's propagating, right?
Yeah.
Where people understand that, okay, this is fantastical content that can satiate us for 3 hours, but now we don't want like middle ground content where
Yeah.
if you're gonna escape, give me like Marvel movies, and if you're gonna be authentic, I just want people talking for 3 hours as well, and have them be as real as possible. So I do like that part of it.
Has your style or approach to stand-up comedy changed over the years? And if it has it been kind of, is it just happened change-wise, or have you kind of wanted to kind of change things around, like different routines and gigs and everything? I'm just curious about that.
I mean, I started out really wanting to be a contender on the international scene,
Yeah.
because and I felt like there was this, you've seen in a palatable version of India everywhere in the world. So you've seen like the Canadian version of India represented, or you've seen the American version of India represented, or the British version of India represented. And I'd keep watching that as a kid going, yo, there's 1.3 billion people whose perspectives you're actually missing out on, which is the Indian version of India.
Yeah.
And that deserves a space. And so ironically, when I started working abroad or across the globe, I'd be like, okay, what do they know about India? And let me talk about that. And then as Netflixes and Amazons and all of these people came into the world, content became global content.
Yeah.
So it became more and more sort of necessary to tell an authentic story, and to take you somewhere I don't know. So like a Chappelle can take me to Ohio. I've never been to Ohio.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens in Ohio. Let me take you to Mumbai. And maybe you'll see and smell and feel and hear some shit that you wouldn't normally.
100%. This is a big question. This is a very quick question. There's not much in this. I mean, is it important to you to be raw?
I don't think you can fake raw. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a lot of comics who are like, put the camera close on me. I'm going to be raw right now for the next 30 seconds. And I don't think you can fake that stuff. Like, I think good raw happens when nobody's trying to be raw.
So I'm asking. So I feel I don't feel like you are trying to be raw. I think it just happens. I think you're just being Veer Das. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I don't second guess what the response is going to be, and I try and do it differently every time. So yeah.
I've spoken to a lot of stand-up comics before. Like Jamie Kennedy's been on my show. I asked him about, misconceptions in stand-up comedy. He says a lot of people think it's a lot of improv when you go up and do like a bit. Like he thinks people go up for like 40 minutes and just wing it. Do you kind of agree with that? That's a misconception. People think there's a lot more kind of improv and on the spot.
I think so, but because I think also a lot of comics are just posting like crowd work videos all the time because they don't want to give away their good material, right? Yeah. So everybody's like, don't they just come up and talk to the crowd and be like, where are you from? And that turns into a 90-minute show. No, that's not what we do.
That is very true. Yeah. I mean, the hecklers, there's always conspiracy theories about hecklers too. And certain people, like, they're planted in the audience to show.
Oh, yeah. Whenever I see a line where I'm like, comedian decimates heckler, I'm like, I don't know if you decimated anyone. I don't know. I'm not great at crowd work, so I have massive respect for comedians who are.
I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel here, because you look at, some of the all-time greats like, George Carlin, like the serious undertones of comedy. Has there always been serious undertones in your approach of comedy as well, where you're trying to make people laugh, but you're bringing up kind of important issues and everything, and issues that are hot topics, like the serious undertones of it, Veer?
Well, I think it comes from two things, right? As you get older, I think who you are falls onto the page
Yep.
a little bit easier, right? So along with trying to make them laugh, just your beliefs fall
Yeah.
onto the page. And also, I think, as opposed to a lot of other comics, I come from a part of the world where the issues that you face live closer to you than the average person. You don't get to insulate yourself from the issues, and so they're just a little bit more in your face, and so they're on the page more.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. And before we wrap up very quickly, I mean, you're going to be performing at Just For Laughs Montreal this summer, part of the Veer Das Wanted World Tour. What can you tell specifically about this tour and everything, specifically, and what can we expect?
It's 38 countries across the world. It is a show about coming home.
Okay.
And it's a show about taking home with you across the globe. So it's a show that'll make you feel like you're going home no matter where your home is or what your country is. And it's a show about freedom. So if you believe in your home and you believe in freedom, come see this show.
And that show is going to be part of Just For Laughs Montreal, July 28th at the Olympia. Tickets available at hahaha.com as well. Veer, thank you so much for coming on Popternative. It was great chatting with you, man.
Thank you, man. Have a good day.
You
Cheers.
too.
Thank you.
Social media, right? Veer, like they could just find Veer Das and they'll find you, right?
Veer Das on Twitter, Instagram. If you find it, let me know, because I don't know where it is.
Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Till next time, this is Veer Das. You can catch part of Just For Laughs Montreal, July 28th at Olympia, and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.